Hey, welcome to ID Sketching with Coach K. If you are out there trying to figure out how to sketch like an industrial designer and you're just starting off, there's a lot of subtleties to what we do in terms of the pens that we use, the markers that we use, different circle templates and guides. So this is part of a series of introductory videos that I've put together for you, and you can go through each video and hopefully get some tips and tricks from a pretty seasoned industrial designer to help you out going forward. So let's get sketching. So as I get started here, I'm going to throw down the minor axis, and it's going to serve really as the backbone of the entire sketch, because what I can do now is use that for alignment purposes. Not only is it the proper alignment for uh, myself in throwing the ellipses, now I am right-handed, but everything will be symmetrical around that minor axis. At least that's kind of the goal. And so the ellipses, the spheres, the circles, all of that will be centered on that. But then as we get into using a guide, you can see how light my strokes are with that pen. And that's very intentional because nobody throws these lines down perfectly all the time. And all I'm doing, see, I'm thinking about the design as I'm working here. So I know that when it comes to cleaning things up, if it turns out that this sketch is worthy of it, then I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to use guides like you see me doing right now. So my circles aren't perfect initially, hand drawn, but I'm coming back in. I'm adding certain things like contour lines that really help define the form, and I'm adding a power button. So who really knows what this this device is, right? I'm just kind of creating a product idea. Uh, Maybe it's a speaker, maybe it's some kind of child's toy. It's somewhat irrelevant at this point, but you can see me kind of correcting some of these lines. And really, what that comes down to is I'm working on the overall proportions, and the initial proportions that I threw down weren't to my liking. So now I can go in and I can correct it by adding new lines. And because the lines are so lightly drawn, the initial lines will just fade away. By the time I add my line weight, the heavier line weight, and the marker, you won't even see or notice the initial lines that I drew. So I'm going around now. I'm tightening things up. I'm adding some additional line weight. And so you can kind of see how I work in layers, right? It's building it up. If you get in there, and one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of beginner designers make when they're sketching is they go in with too heavy of a line stroke. And so what that does is it makes it look more cartoony. I use that term a lot with my students. Or it makes it look like an icon as opposed to a concept sketch. And you still want to make it look like a concept because it's early in the design process. But as I always say, you need that implied realism. It's got to have a hook to it, a visual hook. You have to pull the audience in and get them believing in the fact that, hey, this could be a real product. I could see it evolving. So that's kind of what we're striving for here. And so it really is about fast and efficient working methods, right? So you can see on the actual body of this device that I'm not going side to side, top to bottom with the marker. I've isolated it basically on a diagonal and kind of I'm rendering half of the product. It doesn't need to have marker on the entire product. So I just want to give an indication. Maybe it's a way to help further define the form and communicate the form. Here I'm working on a shadow on a beveled surface. So the bevel kind of goes into the power button. In other words, the power button, it could be recessed perhaps a little bit. So that's kind of the goal there. Other little details that you could throw in maybe would be some venting, maybe this device, for whatever reason, needs some airflow to it. So you can add some vents like I have at the bottom. Around the top, there could be speaker hole openings. But it's really going to come down to, once we start putting marker on that top piece, then how do we define the form again? Because the contour lines kind of indicate a soft pillowing into that central button. So here it is. I'm applying the marker, and the key for, particularly if you're not experienced with markers, you want to be able to work fast. You want to have overlapping strokes, and you want to use the right paper, because marker really behaves very strangely if you just use, let's say, on copy paper. It just sucks the ink out. It doesn't distribute evenly, and it bleeds. So it's worth investing. If you know you're going to be doing some marker work, get some marker paper, and that will really help your marker strokes blend together nicely. So here I am. I'm going to go in. I'm going to put a little pop of color, right? So it's nice to have a little pop here or there. Generally, I work monochromatically a lot, particularly on the early stages of ideation, because you really want people to be analyzing the shape and not having to react to a specific color. So in this instance, I'm also staying very light with the values of my marker, because you'll hear me say it several times, but if you cook at all, you know that if you put in too much salt, you can't take it out, right? And so you can quickly ruin your dish. The marker's the same way. If you start dark, you're going to end dark. There's no way that you can really manipulate it or push it back and forth like we want to. So start light and build it up in layers. This now is just a few final touches of cleanup. Maybe there's a little bit of the darker marker that's gone over or outside of the boundary that I want it to, but I can go in with a bolder stroke of a pen and clean that up to where you won't really even notice it. And there's a few tricks also that I've learned and observed from other designers as I was coming up, about how to clean up your drawings and your sketches. And so, like, you'll see even down on the main body of this device, I'm going to put down a single thrown line right on the edge of that darker marker surface. And what that does is it just kind of cleans it up. Like, there's the stroke right there. And here, just those little white voids I've outlined in pen. And it's a stylistic decision, but it's also one that indicates purpose.